Hope you don't mind if I try to get my bearings. Different kind of sea leg you need here. So this is the hot seat. Not an Irishman's view of heaven or hell. It ain't a pub. Not my favorite situation. All the rules are yours. What do you want to know from me? I get to present my case for myself as to why I deserve to be a member of this club. Well, first of all, I'd like to know who's welcome. You take blacks? Jews? Drunks? Irish? Oh, my. Non-discriminatory and non-denominational. Can't be Boston or New York. Does everyone have to do this? Everyone. What am I on the clock? Do I take as long as I want? As long as it takes. So I have a captive audience, in other words, and it's you. Do I deserve membership? That's the point. For me to know on my own. What do you mean to say I decide whether I deserve to be a member or not? Everyone does. This must be a hell of a place for illusion, lies, and lawyers. There's no illusion here. Only the truth works here. Amazing. Simple. The truth is the one inescapable reality, outlasting all the illusions. The truth just waits out there in that vast, wild, distant blue like a fate. Seeing my life whole will rid me of all lying. Does this work for everyone? It does, here. So the rules are mine after all. I'm a great believer in all that we don't know about ourselves, but inclined to skepticism about what we think we know, so I will try to give you my beliefs without skepticism, as best I can. There's something to be said for seeing your life whole as a completed thing. No more tampering to do, no more pipe dreams to weave, no more disguises, no more lies, no more defenses. Honesty. That can be very perverse. Of course, there's a lot to be said against seeing my life whole. I mean, I know everything, but I can't change a jot of it. When you see it whole, you see the influences, the things you missed when you're actually living. Well, my influences were my family's, all of them. The results were my plays. I guess the biggest influence was the families I did not have, memories I didn't get to have. I had families, understand, mother, 3 wives. What I did not have, most of the time anyway, that was self-love, which every mortal ought to have as a birthright. No self-love. That was an influence in my life and in my plays, especially in Iceman, because that play is more nakedly about self-love and the loss of it than any of the others. You know what the core influence is, don't you? It's the capacity to relate to another human being, to simply relate. How's that for an oxymoron? Simply relate. What an absurd phrase. Suppose for me, just about anyone else, that ability to relate starts in the original relation. From the instant we slip into some obstetrician's thick hands, we want everything out here to be as good as everything was in there. That warm, toasty, feel-good all the time stuff, that had better be out here like smiles and more smiles, and auras of shine everywhere. God, if I'd had that, I'd have felt like the greatest thing since baked apple pie. I'd have felt so complete. I'd have never had time to be petty or small or defensive or shut down. I've been so full of my own adequacy, I'd have never thought to give anything but my best smile to anyone else. If I could have related out of my adequacy to everyone I ever met, everything that I ever did. I did not have that kind of childhood relating. My childhood didn't have much self-love in it. I got whatever self-love I got from my work. I protected myself from pain in all my relationships, especially the more emotionally involved I got. Couldn't let myself be vulnerable. Had to be safe, in control of my connections. So I didn't allow relationships to happen very well. Primarily, exclusively, because my parents did not allow relationships to happen to me very well. Why does it take dying to see my life whole? I could use a swim. Beginnings. Beginnings. Only thing I know for sure is endings are in the beginning. My beginnings were James O'Neill and Ella Quinlan. My father was an actor. That sums up most of my character right there. My mother was a devout Catholic, and if I have any character left, that about sums up the rest of it. See, I'm convinced that Sigmund Freud, he didn't know much about beginnings. I think children scared the shit out of him. Far too challenging to his Oedipal world. Now Einstein, he was once asked, what is the most important question? You know what he said? Is the world a friendly place? Einstein knew about beginnings. That's a more important question than E equals MC squared is an important answer. You can separate the whole of humanity based on their answer to that question. Now those who say yes, this is a friendly place, they go here. Them we institutionalize. Straitjacket them, they're an embarrassment. They're the ones who know life is joy, who are relaxed. They coexist with everything. They're normal. Not only mad, there'd be so damn few of them. Then there are those who say no. No, this ain't no friendly place. They go here. The lovers of the grape, of poetry, they know life is struggle. They need to control it if they can. I went here. Grape and poetry, life is struggle. That was my portion. It had everything to do with my endings. My father was an Irish actor. I don't know if that's a contradiction or a redundancy. It's almost a genetic impossibility for this world to be a friendly place to an Irishman, who, again, happens to be an actor, except mine, except for a wee nip. Now and now and now. There's the O'Neill curse, the bottle, among other things. My son, my first son, my namesake, he took his own life. Left behind a note that read, "Never let it be said that an O'Neill never finished a bottle." He had such talent. Gene. See, an Irishman is born looking inward. His faith makes the inward stare a fixation, and drink makes the inward gaze unmerciful. No inward-gazing, drinking Irishman ever saw a world that he liked. Now, the Irish aren't alone in this, to be sure, but they do seem to live under its jinx. See, that stare is never after the truth. It's after paradise. My father was a perfect example of success that traps. He had more regrets about that success of his than most men have regrets about failure. Monte Cristo, the play that sunk so many dreams, took the world from all of us. He bought it for a song, made a fortune. The fatal flaw was ease. It was easy money. He still holds the record run for a single actor, well over 6,000 performances. Monte Cristo. It was too easy. It was his escape hatch when everything else failed. If a man always has an escape hatch, he never digs to the roots of his soul. So he never became the actor he might have been. Or the man. You cannot imagine the joy that I lost by not having him there, seeing him in his greatness, the lesson he would have been. Velasco himself once said of my father, the greatest performance of a generation was the Jesus Christ, the Christus of James O'Neill. See, in the right role, my father would have acted for nothing. He knew that a man should work at what makes him and him alone happy. He knew that the men who truly deserve the earth are those who would do what they do for nothing. Ones who are shocked to find that what makes them happy makes them money. But he was hungry, too, so he did things for easy money, and then he was shocked to find that that made him a failure. My father's genius for acting cost all of us. In the end, it cost him his genius when he sold out for easy money. It cost Jamie and me. Our price was Mama losing her when she went on tour with him without us. That cost us Edmund and the rest of our lives. No, he was a good man. He really was. He just couldn't cope with his guilt about our fates, about my trying to take my own life. After I had attempted suicide, I joined my father on tour. He never once asked me why I would do such a thing. That hurt. Now, years later, he died. He lingered unmercifully. Cancer of the intestines and bowels. His room for months. Clotted my nose with the foul stench of death. His last words were, "This sort of life, froth, rotten, all of it, no good." His conclusion after 76 years, loss of life by regret. And just when we were starting to be pals. August 10th, 1920. My mother. Mama. My mother was cruelly treated by life. With my father, I always thought of events. Next play, next train, next house, next hotel. My mother, I thought about life in general, of life as a kind of grand, cosmic jest, as the personification of the blind malice that resides in an empty universe. Thought about dreams deferred, the barbarism in chance, the ignominy of pain without purpose. She taught me that we create pain out of our own deepest human needs, and that this pain is superior to any reality that God ever made. You want to deny my membership, you can do it on that alone. On that I stand. See, my mother was really meant to be a queen, run around with Queen Victoria during the day, hang out with Marie Antoinette at night. I could see that in her, this stately liveliness. It didn't last. A glance is all I ever got, then it finally died out altogether. I think a true calling may have been to be the bride of God. She thought so. Her life, too, was living by regret and guilt. See, those two together, they're like self-accelerating roller coasters into a completely personalized hell. She married young, immediately had children, became a stage widow without a home, except for trains and hotel rooms, desk clerks and bellhops across the country for friends. Widowed by my father's taste for booze and the empty blather of cronies. And then I was born. Some 12 years into my parents' marriage, October 16th, 1888. That was the date. 1888. And it came to pass that my mother was never the same again. See, after I was born, she became a drug addict. Morphine. The day the rainbow died forever was my birthday. The day the smiles that I never got to see stopped. She was a junkie, dope fiend, rest of her life. Another one of God's surprises. You know, the dice were fucking loaded. And you asked me to prove worthy when at 15 I had deceived my own mother on the shoreline of the Thames, keep her from drowning herself in the river. That endless fucking rainy summer. Why should any God exist for me after that? Is there anything to drink around here? No? Wilder was wrong in our town. Cravings don't die, they live on in memory. Couldn't someone tap a cloud, maybe? A glass of water? I'm a disembodied spirit now. Well, how about a glass of disembodied water, huh? I'll be. God must be the stage manager. Thank you. I had two brothers. Edmund, middle brother, he died before I was born. So I really only had one brother. Jamie, he was enough. I think our father's success destroyed Jamie more than any of us. He was a paradox in high-shine shoes, a brother to love me and to destroy me. He was great at the quiet zinger. He used to slice our father slowly with razor blades. Killed illusions faster than a sailor got VD. And he put me wise early. I had a college all my own. I learned from Jamie that Lucifer ain't all bad. Even got a title from him, yeah. In his cups, he used to be fond of telling a joke about the fella got home early from work, called upstairs to his wife, "Honey, the Iceman come yet?" She said, "No, but he's breathing hard." Sorry. It's off color, a little blue joke. If it's off color, why is it blue? I don't know. No, there's no off-color green joke. There's no yellow joke either. Look, there's no other color. There's just blue, all right? What is a blue joke? It's blue, you know. It's raunchy. Okay, it's a raunchy joke. No, it's not a blue raunchy joke. That's redundant. All right. I know. You didn't create language. But Jamie told raunchy jokes. Lots of them. Lucifer, he was a hell of a man. He was alive with the passion of self-defeat. 10 years older than me. Seemed older than that. And Jamie liked women. Kind he didn't have to give any of himself to. You know the type. Sidewalk princesses of New York, New Rochelle, New London. He could make love in a turnstile. Not everybody's gift. At least my father got to see some of his talent. Booth and the others. Jamie never gave himself a chance. Can you imagine all the leaps across the synapses that have to be made for a man to end his life, declaring it a waste? All the self-attacks, the evasive, drunken stupors before a man comes to that conclusion. Lonely for him wasn't everyone's lonely. There were no pipe dreams for him. His talents were his worst enemy. He flaunted his gifts till they became mere ornament, finally self-recrimination. Stopped drinking after Papa died, a long temporary that was. Till Mama had her stroke a year and a half later. Then, after her second stroke, he never stopped. See, between Jamie and me, there was Edmund. Papa was on tour, Mama was with him. Edmund was 2. Jamie had the measles, and as the insane fates would have it, he walked into Edmund's room. Edmund caught it. Edmund died. After that, Jamie became desperate for Mama's love, desperate to make amends. He never forgave himself, largely because Mama didn't. After that, he never had room in his life for another woman. God, that's a bitch. Trying to be two sons, trying to be himself and Edmund, all at once. Mama gone, he had no one to love. I remember he used to stand in front of mirrors and just heap abuse upon himself. Then, with Mama gone, he'd heap loathing on himself. I abandoned Jamie then. Left him to deal with Mama's death, all alone. I wrote Moon for the Misbegotten to beg forgiveness from him for that. After Papa's, I couldn't bear her death. He arrived in New York with Mama's casket, opening night of the Hairy Ape. He was in a drunken stupor. Why not let him tell it? Jamie, as I loved him in Moon, had to bring her body east to be buried beside the old man. I took a drawing car and hid in it with a case of booze. She was in her coffin in the baggage car. No matter how drunk I got, I couldn't forget that for a minute. Came so I couldn't be alone in the drawing car. I became haunted. I was going crazy. I had to get out, wander up and down the train, looking for company. Spotted one passenger, was used to drunk. Couldn't even pretend to like him if there was enough dough in it. She had Parlor House written all over her. Come on, smile. It's cold as a polar bear's feet. So I sneaked her into my drawing room that night. She was bound for New York, too. So every night, for $50 a night, I believe at that moment, Jamie made up his mind to die as soon as he could, which was a year later. I was not with him then either, by intent. Left him to lose his mind and his life all alone. I couldn't take the pain. That was 1924. I lost them all within 4 years. Each one of them a prisoner in his mind and body until death finally became kind. And then there's me, O'Neill, the youngest. Little Gene O'Neill trying to get up the guts to request entry. Was born in a goddamn hotel room. Barrett House, right on Times Square. Before it was even called Times Square. It was Longacre Square. 11 pounds at birth. My mother told me some 30 years later. Jesus Christ. Having an 11-pound baby must be like sticking a chainsaw up your ass. I was not wanted. My mother did not want another child. My father prevailed. What a dark day for American theater. Such a great place to start. Gives me a feeling of belonging every time. I was the baby that guilt made to make up for Edmund's death. My mother never forgave herself for that death. Probably never forgave Jamie either. Fogged out on drugs, she used to grope for Edmund in the dark, calling out his name. Edmund. Edmund. God, what Jamie must have felt every time he heard that, huh? But That's where I come into the picture, the supposed cure for my mother's guilt and depression. Not even in diapers yet. I was expected to do the job of Freud. Cure depression. Gives new meaning to the term child psychologist. Anyway, I got born. My mother had a terrible labor, a lot of pain afterwards. So to cure the pain, the doctor chose morphine. Cured the pain, all right. Also made New London and trains and hotels and desk clerks and bellhops and porters tolerable. God, it was the answer to a sufferer's prayer. Morphine. Made her feel more fine. Because of me, my mother became a drug addict. This 11-pound Freud. I made my mother an addict for life. I had no youth. Man that can say that with some honesty, he walks a different earth. You have no youth, you never belong. Not like birds belong, or trees, or cows. I grew up next to people, around people. With my parents, I had proximity. We shared the same territory. Oh, we were territorial. Just couldn't find the territory we could stake out together. Just kind of impinged on each other's efforts to make a home of this earth. Never forget. I was never allowed to forget just how much I impinged on my mother's efforts. My father, Jamie especially, they had ways of letting me know who was the cause of the curse within the curse. I mean, we were intruders into each other's lives. I had a full array of antagonists before I was 2. Fear, abandonment, rejection, isolation, addiction. You know, it was always my suspicion that you were dealing from the bottom of the deck. I didn't have talents. I had defenses. I could bundle it into words. I could carry it. Articulated pain, that's easier to deal with. What is it? It's disconnection. Nothing fed me when I stopped and just let myself be. It's unrelatedness, solitariness, separateness. It's loneliness. There's a lot of it out there, buddy. A whole lot of it. I got the box office receipts to prove it. See, that was our common ground, mine and the audience. That we shared. But if you really want to know me, then you must go to the deepest level, and that level is, again, Mama. Mothers are the doorway to infinite feelings. I connect the sea and my mother's womb, I do. Water is the common element. Its skin splashes, skin washes, liquid laves, it caresses with warmth and a feeling of pleasure. It's the quintessential element. We all come from someplace outside of time, and water is the element that floats us in. Mama. Mama is God. The original water, in a manner of speaking. And I wanted to see that womb printed on my mother's face every time that I saw her. I needed her smile to tell me that I was okay, that I was adequate. Then I'd have had no inadequacies to run from, no angers to hide. No. I would not have split into my infant true self and the outer me. I locked the infant gene up inside myself and just let this outer me grow up around him. See this infant? He was my other. Without him, I never really felt whole. Used to dream about him as a kind of invisible supporting force. He gave me joy just by being there. We grew up around him. That was the defensive gene, doing everything in his power to shield this child, this soft, gentle, real me. But my human problem was my other and my mother did not get along. The more I loved her, the worse my infant true self became, because I did not get the love back, not as I needed it. I needed that womb to continue long after birth, just to feel like I belonged in this life. We all want to feel like we're the center of the universe, and we are in that womb. And if that feeling, that sense of being central lasts long enough, then the memory of it will go on forever. That's belonging, true belonging. You talk about gods, they were gods. My parents were. Yeah, they were bigger than gods. And they failed. Bigger than God ever failed. I needed a parent every year of my life, even winning the Nobel Prize, the Pulitzers. I was a child in man's clothing. God, isn't that an insane competition? I was a bigger child than my own children. My children. My 2 sons and my daughter. The trailing edges of the O'Neills. See, the worst of it with Shane, Jean, Una, was that I recreated in them all the ghosts that I fled from in my youth. Una, from the time you were 2, how many times did I see you? 2, 3, maybe 4 times the rest of my life? Connected you with your mother too much. Your mother crippled me with alimony, made it easy for me to be bitter when you disappointed me. What right had I to expect anything? You were just coming to maturity when the Hitler monster started war. You were actually with me when Germany invaded Poland. I remember I was so riveted with the seriousness of it. I wanted you to be serious, both of you. I mean serious about everything. When Una, you were what, 17? Shane, 21? You know why you can never put old heads on young shoulders? No one would ever order pizza for breakfast. Think of that. The dullness of that. The dullness of me. I expected you two to make me proud. So my eyes were never on you. They were always on me. When you were just being kids, I was going to skewer you like shish kebab with my criticisms and finger jabbing. When you became the darling of the store club publicist, made up like any other mindless starlet floozy, got quoted for stupid comments, I cut you dead. Why? Because it was my name and my money that was sponsoring the shabbiness. I didn't want my name out in the world in such a cheap, sleazy form. Because I was so private a person, couldn't stand publicity. Took it as an insult to me. That's why I never saw you again. From 17 on. And then Chaplin. God, another stupidity on your part. Connecting me to him. I remember it was 1920. I was doing Emperor Jones. Chaplin was hanging out in New York. He'd fled a paternity suit in California. He was hanging around the Provincetown Playhouse. Even volunteered to be an extra in my play. 3 times your age. And you weren't even born yet. I didn't like him then either. Took it as a spite towards me, you're marrying him. The father you never had. That hurt. Because it was so true. Shame. No one thanks a man for holding up a mirror to his ugliness. You were my mirror. I sniped you for not being your older brother, Gene, till you berated me that I was not my older brother, Jamie. The one who laughed. I denounced practically every job or occupation you put your mind to until you shipped out in the Merchant Marine. Made yourself a target for every U-boat in the North Atlantic. Oh, then I was proud of you. You'd have been killed, I'd have been even more proud. Ain't that a macabre, up and down kind of love? Just shows you old yo-yos under the end of strings. So with me for a father, having seen ships sunk, bodies aflame like torches, even in water, what would you want to do after the war? But banish memories, even consciousness. Just like me, just like my characters. Just like my mother. And then that addiction, that goddamn heroin, just like Mama's morphine. I hated it. And then the suicide attempts. Just like me. just like your brother, who at least had the guts to finish the job. And I refuse to see myself as the cause of your pain. In fact, I made myself the victim. I was the one being punished, being injured. Made it easy for me to abandon you. Now remember every word. I purposely exclude from any interest under this will my son, Shane O'Neill, and my daughter, Una O'Neill Chaplin. And I exclude their issue, now and hereafter born. You were gone by then. Know what I wanted for my epitaph? There's a lot to be said for being dead. Yeah, I was a light-hearted son of a bitch, wasn't I? Carlotta. My third wife. Carlotta Monterey O'Neill. She's a tough one. She was the best thing for me. She freed me. And she was the worst thing for me. She isolated me. Truest thing I could say about our marriage is that it was uneven. So I will hold to the one thing about her that was truly remarkable to me. She stuck. She stuck. She stuck through good times easy enough, but she stuck through bad times. And it did get bad. The illness, the tremors. When the tremors ravaged me, she stuck. Got inside me, kept me company so I wouldn't die alone from not being able to write anymore. I mean, there were unfortunate scenes towards the end. There was bitterness. She left me more than once. Twice. We battled. Scared the hell out of the hotel staff in Boston, where my life ended. Yeah, Carlotta had her faults. She was tough, very, very tough on my children. She drove off all my friends. She was a fortress to protect me, but she also walled me off from people I could possibly love. And I let her. That's the bitch of it, I let her. I used her love to kill my kids. What a tangled web I wove, huh? She might not have married me if I hadn't been a successful playwright, but she gave me the only belonging that ever accepted me, hook, line, and sinker for who and what I was. In that, she was almost primitive, almost a mother. My deepest human need, matter of fact. Hell, she might have even loved me. Anyway, these are the ghosts that shuffled through my plays in one form or another. My family was the best illustration I knew of that life was not a free lunch. They're the best example to me of what was going on in the world. And I used them as a metaphor for the predicament that mankind was facing. Well, let no man consider himself fortunate until, at the moment of his death, he can look back upon his life as a memory without regret. Sophocles. And who of us lives without regret? See, that's the thrust of all my plays. Memory. Memory without regret. Nobody ever beat that game. See, that is why you must respect me and everyone like the O'Neills who suffer through all the forms of pain. God, you were prodigious. You made so many kinds of pain for us to suffer through and learn from during the trip. When I was 21, I went to Honduras on a mining expedition. Hell was fashioned after Honduras. Bugs, insects, vermin, by the trillions. All of them with postgraduate degrees in human anatomy. Christ, after a while they were merely biting their own bites. Honduras, only country I know of built on the vertical. Up, down, up, down. My father's idea to go. He thought he was getting me away from a woman who I had already married and impregnated. Father, at 21, I never even held a job. Kathleen Jenkins didn't deserve it, but I didn't know how to say no. Anyway, I got sick there, was shipped back to a mother and father, knew nothing of the little mother I had on my own. See, that's the beauty of being 21. Gives you practice at the sort of asshole you're going to be the rest of your life. I jumped into manhood, didn't know what to do with it when I got it, so I ran away again on a sailing ship, the Charles Racine. $75 bought me Buenos Aires. And that transformed me. Stories the crew told, they chilled my bones, fired my blood all at once. Waterfront jails in India, houses of easy pleasure in Baipoo, bar fights in Liverpool. The sea was my school. It's just like Ishmael. The sea was my Harvard, my Yale. The sea is the one place where you know exactly where the earth stops and that vast, indifferent blue starts. I don't know if the sea turned me in upon myself or out upon the infinite. Maybe they're the same thing. Or maybe they long to be the same. That sounds more like it. We long for the infinite within. See, when you're on the sea, you're prepared for distance. Whales, sharks, mantas, they're creatures of distance. Stars are distant, ports are distant. Vast spaces of place and time. I lost interest in anything immediate, unless it was to stand watch a man of windlass. Got carried out of myself from the sea, got hooked on connecting the infinite within to the infinite out there. And it got to be a need, a real need. It's nothing like the sea to tell you that there's magic and feeling totally connected. Nothing ever looked the same on the sea. Major rain squalls in the distance looked like God had suddenly cast a veil over the sunset. Or at night I'd sit on the fantail and watch the turbulence in the water churn up these bright, glowing jewels of phosphorescence, vivid balls of light the size of your fist, whirling like tops, spinning off into the distance, then trailing off behind you like an emerald necklace being unraveled. And the moon in the full sails, and it shattered me with the whiteness of peace. Sucked me in, all of it. So connected, I wasn't even aware of myself. Yeah, and the flying fish and the midnight rainbows. One night, it's a gorgeous night. Pancake Sea, these flying fish showed up. They just expelled from the sea like the sea was spitting out silver spears. They were leaping all over the ship in high, glistening arcs, 10 feet, maybe more in the air. God, it froze me. And then they hit the deck house, they hit the mast, they were landing on the ship, quivering with the electricity of life. Jesus, it was stunning. It was like Mother Nature opened her blouse and said, here, right on the deck. But what made me stand in awe, that was the midnight rainbows. Them you got right. 2 o'clock in the morning, slight haze, air sharp as a diamond, light clouds above. And this rainbow just opened up in front of the ship. We all ran to the bow to see it free of the sails. Don't think I breathed for 2 minutes. Just passed overhead. Like a Spanish dueña slowly lifting her mantilla over her head. I could live 1,000 lifetimes, never have a surprise like that sprung on me again. Gave me goosebumps. It was like a feeling I had never experienced. Like if you'd asked me at that moment if I could feel like that for the rest of my life, for all of time beyond my life, I'd have said yes. I found my soul. Not in books, not in churches. I found my soul when I found that I wanted something from time, something from beyond time. I found my soul when I started to make demands on eternity. It wasn't like I was looking at any of it. It was like I was a part of it. Not standing in front of the picture, but in the picture. It was all seamless. It was one. I wasn't myself. I was without past, without history, without memory. I was just there, nowhere. Nowhere else but there. God, what a feeling, completely, totally in the moment. And I flowed out of myself like I sprung a leak in every pore, and I flowed into it all. I just merged with the whole goddamn glory of it. Like it. Only it was big enough to contain the joy. I was having sex with the planet. I wanted it to last forever. I found my soul. As real as midnight rainbows. As beautiful, as exquisite. But it didn't last. In fact, it never happened again. And I wanted it back. I really, really wanted it back. See, that's the irony. The moment that I discovered my soul, I fell a little bit in love with death. The parking lot to the infinite. Yeah, the infinite. It was always there in my plays, underneath everything else. I was never interested in the relationship between man and man. I was interested in the relation between man and God. Yeah, true. True, I did not accept a personal God myself. Let me put it this way. I was interested in the relation between man and his need for a God who was not there. See, my audience was the audience that gave God the old heave-ho. Now, this was no easy job, convincing the disbelievers that we suffered a great loss when God died, make them listen, maybe even accept it. If I had presented the death of God directly to the audience, they'd have been offended. I'd have never sold a ticket. Don't throw someone's values in their face and tell them to like it. No, I had to write about the death of God without writing about the death of God, you know what I mean? Had to disguise God and his death. And gave him what you might call a secular makeover. How'd I do it? Well, see, at first I gave the audience a moment in time when a character felt so good within himself, so mesmerized by the rhythm and peace that he felt within himself that time stood still. It was like Poe said, like a veil is cast over everything, and tranquility and time, they become woven together. They become one and the same. I mean, for this, I don't know, call it unity of being. I used the things that I knew, the moments that I had felt in my own life. I mean, that feeling, that glow, it comes from emerald light spinning through the sea foam at night, from shanty songs, or from sitting the fantail at evening, looking at the mountains of South America. What I tried to do, I tried so damn hard, I became obvious. I wanted the glory of that feeling to convey a God in it. And I wanted to lose myself in it. Just pure being, in the moment, in the now, to have a God in it. I committed the cardinal sin in writing in Long Day's Journey. I wasn't obvious, I was blatant. Put the words right in Edmund Tyrone's mouth. He just comes out, says it. See, where is it? Here. Edmund's father's just told him some of his ecstatic moments, acting with Edwin Booth. Now the son tells the father some of his. When I was on the Squarehead Square rigger, bound for Buenos Aires, a full moon in the trades, the old hooker driving 14 knots. I lay on the bowsprit, facing astern, with the water foaming into spume under me. I became drunk with the beauty and the singing rhythm of it, and for a moment, I lost myself. I actually lost my life. I was set free. I dissolved in the sea. Became white sails and flying spray. Became beauty and rhythm. Became moonlight in the ship and the high, dim, starred sky. I belonged without past or history, within peace and unity and a wild joy. Within something greater than my own life or the life of man, but to life itself, to God. if you want to put it that way. I belonged within something greater than my own life, to God. See, I said the same thing 20 years earlier, right out of the mouth of Patty in the Harry Eighth. That's damn near word for word. It's image for image. Poe was onto the same thing. See, what took shape for me on that ship was my clear recognition of that thirst, the thirst to go outward and outward through all the layers of creation until I identified, joined, just melded with the all, to be in everything. This thirst belongs to the immortality of man. It is at once a consequence and an indication of his perennial existence. It is no mere appreciation of the beauty before us, but a wild effort to reach the beauty above. And thus, when by poetry or when by music we find ourselves melted into tears, we weep then through a certain impatient sorrow at our inability to grasp now, wholly, here on earth, at once and forever, those divine and rapturous joys of which through the poem or through the music we attain to but brief and indeterminate glimpses. God, I could have drank with that man. You see, that's it. That's what Edmund and Patty and Adam Brandt on the Blessed Isles and Morning Becomes Electra all had, brief and indeterminate glimpses at God. That's how I put the sense of God in my work without any religious mumbo-jumbo. In fact, without even mentioning him. See, words like above, beyond, soul, they had meaning for me that was peculiar to me. I wanted to get rid of myself, to belong to the infinite. With old Omar Khayyam, God bless the heathen, he was right as rain on this point. If I drink wine, it is not for delight, nor from holiness to take flight. I drink to breathe a little, free from self. No other cause could make me drink all night. I held out for a feeling that I almost never had. But having it once, twice, a few times, brief and indeterminate, that desire was there forever. And I wanted that feeling back. I had an impatient sorrow for the midnight rainbows that I did not get every day of my life. I always wrote about that sorrow. Edmund, Patty, the rest, they had to lose that magical moment of unity. I wanted them to stand for something. See what my characters went through when they lost that feeling, lost whatever had a God in it. To see their descents into the pits of isolation. See, that was merely an opportunity I gave my audience to see what they lost when they cast off all lines to their souls. Lines to whatever truly, humbly had a God in it. Then all that was left me to do was explore the loss of that relation when man suddenly had nothing to relate to but himself. He's not a man who, going to shave in the morning, doesn't see in the mirror someone ridiculously small. He has to know that he's driven all the mystery and wonder from life, if he's just for himself, not for something greater. So I avoided mirrors. For God, for a spiritual mother and father, for spiritual rite of passage. 4 million years from clan to tribe to city to state to nation. Imprinted energies, leaping the synapses. Excuse my vernacular, but the 20th century just turned around and told 4 million years of instinct building to get fucked. We'll go the rest of the way without the spiritual instincts, thank you. As if we could. As if we had any say in the matter. I mean, it's one thing to say that we're bigger than God. It's another thing to shit-can 4 million years of energies when we are absolutely sure about their being there. It's instincts. We never harnessed that energy. God, no wonder this age, this 20th century felt puny. We removed the rituals, and that buried energy had no way to be honored in our conscious lives. We traded our power for our self-indulgent pleasures. But the instincts of man, they still cried out for a central force to belong to. They would have a God, one way or the other, true or false. my age sees the false. So, I decided to punch holes in every goddamn one of those illusions that my century was inventing for spiritual fulfillment. If they weren't going to find God in God or in the love of nature's glories, and they sure as hell weren't going to find him in their own petty pursuits, their self-inflated lusts after business or technology, science, sex, or money. I wanted to show how much instinctive dignity we were throwing away with our greed. Our selfishness. Dignity. Dignity. Did I even have dignity? Was it just my greed and ambition? No, I was after a different treasure. Art. Drama. It was treasure just the same. No, I did not throw away my dignity. My needs gave me my dignity. My anger was my dignity. Some pipe dream. I used anger to hide from myself. Yeah, I've been self-examining, but I've avoided my guilt. I used art to expose my past, but I also used it to hide from my children, from my guilt. Dignity. Threw away my instinctive dignity with both hands. Enough! I don't like the truth. Not about me. You said it was my rules. Is it my rules or not? Thank you. What? You're still curious about instincts? What? What do you want to know? I knew if I had enough craft that they'd be interested, they'd listen, because we did instincts for ourselves. You had nothing to do with it. Yeah, we're really a hell of a unique event, us humans. Instincts, being open to them, being in touch with them, that's what made Yank and Harry Ape so smart. So much smarter than all those business and engineering types, those union types that he deals with. It's instinct, trying to make things whole. That's why they're in us, to provide balance, unity. My topic was loss, and what it was that we lost. God. Loss was the common denominator connecting everyone in this century. I wanted the lost unity of my characters to symbolize the spiritual losses that the people of this century were going through. That was the one way that I could give a sense of what was missing in our lives that no longer had spiritual centers. So we just float in space, in the dark, feeling a need, knowing there has to be a connection, an umbilical. That's instinct. It's like all those later characters of mine. Khan Melody, Hickey, the Tyrones, they're just like me. They're people with consciousness that has lots of time to live, but has no place to go. All dressed up, but the party's been canceled. But see, they gave up the struggle. That was their turning point. Then they had to deal with the darkness as a forever thing. And my mother's addiction, that taught me a lot about this business of dealing with darkness. Feed the addiction or go mad. That's when she tried to drown herself that summer of endless rain. Instincts are addictions. They're nature's addictions. Imagine that having an addiction for midnight rainbows was something with a god in it. Maybe even seeing one once and never seeing it again. Imagine coming to know that you are never going to find that midnight rainbow again. And if you don't, you're going to go mad with hunger, need, longing. the end of a long day's journey, my mother comes downstairs. She's gone into herself with drugs. Closed off every door to access. She said, "What is it I'm looking for? I know it's something I lost. Something I miss terribly. It can't be altogether lost. Something I need terribly." I remember when I had it, I was never lonely nor afraid. I can't have lost it forever. I would die if I thought that. Because then there would be no hope. She lost her midnight rainbow. A living flood of dream within her dried up. She discovered the torture of personal meaninglessness. She lost her belonging. Darkness had become her fate. Iceman was the same. Either face spiritual collapse as a fate or escape it, flee it with booze, sleep, illusions, even death. I was prophesying. There'd be a lot more drinking, a lot more drugging, a lot more lying. It's a favorite form of conscious exercise. A lot more suicide. And darkness. What's our legacy? The state of the soul is the fate of society. Each one is it's a mirror of the other. My characters end by facing that darkness, and they are challenged to look into it and name it. Loss is the presence of darkness. What is the darkness like? What is it like? Lavinia Manning walking back into the house, locking herself in. It's Hickey without a pipe dream. It's Jamie as he walks away from Josie. It's Mary Tyrone without her fix. Darkness is the emptiness, that sinking in the gut, the need for midnight rainbows denied. It's utter separation. It's a folding in upon yourself into isolation so dense that nothing can get in. The sun can't get in. Trees can't get in. Light and shade can't. God, nothing in nature, not even the sea, can get in and have the power to impress. Nothing has the power to amaze or amuse. It's your conscious mind exploring the utter inadequacy of itself when it has nothing to belong to. The presence of this ennui, it's physical. It's like a magnet pulling you into the earth, draining energy, even as it drains spirit. You're weary. You are life weary. And you're aware of this isolation, this emptiness all the time. Then consciousness turns against you like a predator cornering prey. That is when your mind turns ugly, because the dream of belonging turns against you, taunting with its beauty but deriding with its impossibility, indicting, ridiculing, undermining your life till you cannot flee from your own mind, but you must flee from your own mind until your emotions join your intellect in sweet surrender to death, because the only self-love you have left is through falling in love with the release from it all, that peace. That peace. The hound of heaven becomes your own mind telling you that you've surrendered your last chance for hope or dignity, surrendered them whether you live or die. So living and dying become one and the same, except that while living yourself, you're exhausted, isolated, tortured, self-loathing. Self is still in the picture, so Jesus, get it out of the picture. Who wants to loathe himself? Darkness is something like that. That's why I wrote plays incessantly. Get my self-loathing self out of the picture. Visibly invisible. What? Had my children a darkness like that? Shane had. I was the maker of the songs my children sang. No, I did not write a play about my failure as a father. I didn't have the courage to face that failure. That was my limit as a human being. I needed my own morphine, my work, to hide from my limits, from my children. My treatment of my children was loathsome. I failed them. I didn't have the guts to write their play. There I was, busting my age's illusions, never once in touch with my own. Just like Hickey in Iceman, I had to be the hero of the drama that was my life. I didn't have the balls to be the villain. Set them up to be the villain. See, that way I was fine. I was okay. I couldn't look at myself as the destroyer of my own kids' midnight rainbows. That would be an insanity too deep. No. No, my illusion was to be a martyr rather than a real father or a man. Keep my withering eye on them so I could be invisible to myself. Keep the monster out of sight. That's why I kept that smoke gray mirror in my bedroom, so I couldn't see myself. That's why I was so pissed at God for his not being there. He would have been the perfect place for me to hide from myself. And beyond my own pain, there isn't much that was real for me. See, that's the challenge to everyone born into this world, to get into realities beyond their own pain. God, beyond my pain, the only things real for me was some friends, or a dog, some songs, some shanties, the sea, Carlotta. I even put a wreath on my dog's grave. Jesus, you got to be careful when it comes to dog lovers. Very suspect when it comes to people. My children were not real to me until it was too late. Took guilt to make them real, then that was too late. Truth? Fuck it. Truth is, Shane, Una, to hold a woman, I disinherited you. Penniless, that was my legacy to you. Get my needs, I denied yours. As a child to you, all three of you, you had a child for a father. I needed Carlotta more than I needed you. I needed touch. I needed love. But you must have seen when you thought of me. I abandoned you. If you're going to be self-honest, you better be prepared to lose everything, even your illusions. Smile. That's funny. Chaplin's song should hold me up. You know, smile is the greatest act of courage there is. Why do I see everything so clearly here? Must be the water. My art took its cue from my life. So, mine was not a happy literature. But then this was not a happy century. Ecclesiastes said, he who increases knowledge increases suffering. You know, pessimism may not be the best way to know, but sometimes it's the only way to know. at a given point in time, say this 20th century, the price you pay depends upon how much you see. That's the 20th century's dilemma. See no evils, pay no price. I paid the price for what I saw and for what I did not see. Do you know why Ireland is the richest country in the world? Its capital is always Dublin. Dublin? Capital? You don't get it. Yeah, laughter. We did laughter for ourselves, too. That's about it. My life, my truth. The behind life of my life. That's it. Do I belong here? I have to decide. I really do have to judge for myself. You know, just once in this thing called existence, I'd like something real. Something out there. Something absolute in this universe to be measured by. You. Yeah, you're supposed to be it. You, judge me. Judge me. Even if you throw me out, I want that assurance. I don't want to be left guessing, not on this choice. Oh, here there is no guesswork. This is as fair as creation gets. So I must choose. Why is there something in me that balks at this? Huh? I don't know. Guess it has something to do with suffering. See, my mother tried suicide. My brother committed slow suicide. I tried suicide. My son Gene, he committed quick suicide. My son Shane, he tried suicide twice. My grandson, my namesake, died crib death. We each lived eternities of anguish. We are to the gods as flies are to little boys. They pluck us for sport. The name of the nada, and of the nada, and of the nada, nada. Oh no, I do not balk at this alone. No, I'm in good company. You know, earning every day is a fresh surprise, like glory bouncing off my eyes. It's just so fucking difficult. We are born to people who are born to people to whom fate and flaws and chance have done unkind, uncharitable, sometimes even vicious things. We are raised, we're cultivated in the hothouses of some malady, like depression and addiction and loneliness and loneliness and loneliness. And then we pass it on unconsciously against our will because the imprinting is so deep, it's so total. So I balk. No, I rebel. The fact that there's nothing in the grain of this existence, no perfect, final, implicit justice that'll give witness. God damn it, witness to the pain in all men's minds and hearts and souls, so that what they endured be seen by you, be visible to you, be compassionated for by you, understood by you, honored in its burden by you. I want witness. I want you to give witness. I deserve that. Do I not love myself enough yet? To love oneself or not to love oneself. Once I've decided that, I'll never need you again. All right. I won't put anything outside myself, not even this choice. Do I love myself? Understanding everything now, seeing it whole. Yes. Yes. I do. So what? I don't want to know that I love me. I want to know that you love me, that you see me and love me. You know what always angered me about you? It was your silence, your deep, resonant silent stewardship. You were silent when I begged for my mother. You were silent when I needed someone in my loneliness. You were silent during all my fears. So I had to find in myself the strength to overcome my fears. You left me to do your job. I became a bigger god to myself than you ever became to me. Your silence forced me to create myself. Holy Jesus. I made my own griefs the mother of my gifts. Just tell me what you want from me. The most immediate loving is loving myself. I must believe I belong here. Choose. All right. All right. It was my life. It'll be my eternity. I tried in my life and in my plays to have pity for all people. I don't mean pompous pity that reeks of superiority. I mean pity, real pity with a soul in it. Compassion, the ability to enter into and feel the pain of other people, eye to eye. Pain did have a purpose. It educated me to pity the loneliness, the unfulfilled hopes, which are the universal lot. I wanted pity to disarm me and everyone of arrogance and prejudice, to help me understand those terrible layers of torments that even the most ordinary people go through. That became my one imperishable value. That replaced all the dead myths, the rituals, the symbols. I wanted everyone to rise above the tatters of defeat and offer pity as the greatest spiritual victory that was possible to us. I wanted pity to give me something more than this prison of myself. See, if man is to make his own soul, then it is with pity. Only by pity can one become the joy of God to another human being. I mean, if pain is prayer, and I think it is, then, and if pity is prayer, and I believe it is, then I've prayed. Bullshit. Bullshit. That was not the joy of God to my children. With them I did not disarm my pride. Other people maybe, not them. Never them. Fuck sensitivities if they have no compassion. I put my compassion into my characters and not into my children. Yes, I said it. My children wear my weaknesses upon their lives like open wounds in witness. I wrote no plays about this family of my creation. Lofty ambitions had nothing to do with freckles, jet black hair, spindly legs, faces fresh as dew. I used art to lose myself and them. Pursue my version of God, my flirtation with the ridiculous. Hey, how about that, Gene? Your plays are your judge and jury. They indict your life. Something inevitable, even final about that. The best of me slays the worst of me. Face it, O'Neill, you were one selfish son of a bitch. Pain is prayer. Well and good to have my truth, but what do I do with it? What is truth? What is prayer even without forgiveness? I mean, isn't forgiveness something else? Something more than the truth, above the truth, beyond the truth, the next step after the truth. Isn't it finally an absolving of the truth? I mean, God, didn't I forgive them? My family, the haunted Tyrones? Forgiveness is a free act of my own choice, and I did it. I did it in Long Day's journey. That was a free act of my heart, giving compassion to those who hurt me the most. So why can't I forgive myself? I know, it's them. It's them, it's my children. They're my forgivers. It's they who I hurt most. It's they who must forgive me. God, if they would forgive me, I would accept hell. But they wouldn't forgive me because of anything special about me. They would forgive me because of what is special in themselves. See, they too have been educated by pain, by the wounds of family. They still want family just as much as I do, probably even more. They had the good of family just long enough for it to be an eternal need in them, a hunger, like Bermuda. Shane, he always wanted to go back to Bermuda. That was the home of his heart. The home. It's the children. They're our chance to do life right. Children will forgive us again and again in the hopes that we will finally get it right. It's when they lose hope that we're doomed. The trick is to know how they need us to love them. They'd forgive me because they still have that need. Because once I forgave, they would forgive me. Even Shane would. Pain is prayer. God, I said my Angelus every day of my life. But seeing my life whole, only you could grant such final power. Yes, I have. I have been hard in all things. But only softness works. Do I deserve softness? From my own hand, probably not. But I'd get it. I'd get it from my children. Yes. Yes, I belong here. I've paid my dues. I belong home. Thank you. Thank you for my visibility. Found my own heaven now. It was a long night's journey in the day. Thanks. Would you be after a wee spot of disembodied gin? Right now I need it. Just my luck, no gin. Applejack. Oh, my God. Welcome. You got a party going on or something? Will Mama and Papa be there? Jim? Gene, my son? Well, I really have family now. My midnight rainbows are waiting. Can I join them at the party? You know, I think I will take this. See, I was always shy. In vino veritas, that sort. Now, I drank so much truth, there'll be a shortage of truth the rest of the 20th century. Understand there is already. Say, tell me, did you really allow whiskey for the sole purpose of keeping Irishmen from being masters of the earth? Thank you. I give you credit. You got midnight rainbows right. Very, very right. If I might add, you did a pretty fair job of this, too. God bless you.